Yes, Jenny.
Stuart, can you talk a little bit about getting the energy up around the tailbone and drawing it up the spine? How that just the mechanics and how that is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, look, the mechanics are very important. Learning the craft is very important. Double breathing exercise is one of the craft. It is the craft of learning how to do all this. First thing is chi. It's the power of energy at the core of your being, at the chakra right below the navel. That power will enable you to draw energy through the sex chakra to the base of the spine, and the energy that is drawn through the sex chakra to the base of the spine will activate kundalini. It'll also give you the power to bring together the male female elements of yourself and literally create kind of an immaculate conception. You give birth to yourself. That union of male female that takes place in the sexual area will activate kundalini. The activation of kundalini is rebirth. So all of this works together, and we have to develop the craft. It's interesting about this meditation. When people first come to it, often there's resistance. There's, what am I getting involved with? But once they discover how this meditation really works, they get it. And they get it because they have learned the craft. They've developed the craft inside. They're building a chakra system that's strong enough to activate kundalini. I mean, in the last thing I wrote on my tantric stuff, that I've been writing on my website, there's a whole thing about the activation of kundalini and how so many people in the world are suffering from kundalini-itis. I don't know if you read that, but it's very true. I mean, I have met so many people in the world, especially doing deep spiritual practice, who think they're God, who think they're Christ, think they're Allah, Buddha, and most of them are just putting layers of illusion all over themselves. Instead of developing the chakra system and having the strength to be able to activate kundalini and allow kundalini to bring them to a state of enlightenment. A state of enlightenment will be less is more. The less I am. I am Buddhaless. I am Krishnaless. I am godless. I am just a soul evolving. And in the evolution of my soul, I have learned to keep my heart open, and I have learned to have gratitude, and I have learned to serve God in this world. Less becomes more. And yet, the activation of Kundalini can create visions and ideas and thoughts about oneself that could be very dangerous. But the whole purpose of this is to become enlightened. You're not going to become enlightened if your heart is closed, if your heart isn't open, if there isn't love inside you, joy, patience, gratitude. And in order to attain that state of love, less has to become more. There has to be humility. There has to be gratitude. There has to be a deep sense of one's humbleness and gratitude to God for allowing one to attain this level of consciousness within themselves, not walking around lording it over everybody, how spiritual you are. I mean, there's nothing more boring in the world than being around people that are endlessly telling you how spiritual they are. So the whole idea is to become nothing. Then you become a child of God. And to be a child of God, you have to have humility. You have to have this whole thing of, I remember years ago when Muktananda was in the United States, and I was working Rudy had a bunch of buildings on 4th Avenue, on 10th Street in New York. And in one of the buildings, he rented a space to a guy who was a very famous photographer. And the guy hired me to renovate the space. And I was working for this guy, and he wasn't an easy guy. He was a very difficult person to be around. And I was sitting with Rudy having dinner one night in the ashram, and I said, you know, Rudy, he's like nuts. And Rudy really got pissed off at me. He said, you're supposed to be having a spiritual life. He said, you are supposed to have compassion. You have to have an understanding of another human being's consciousness, his feelings. Boy, did he tear me apart. You know, and I was, he's right. Learn, Stuart. Less is more. Listening to other people, having compassion for the pain that's inside them is essential for spiritual growth. And I think that this is something we all have to learn. And not activating kundalini, and because we do this, we think we're more important than everybody else. Walk around in robes and how spiritual we are, and this and that, you know, it's all bullshit. What's real, less is more. Humility. I remember I've said it 100 times. I'm sitting there listening to Muktananda talk about how the guru is God, and if you worship the guru, you will get your enlightenment. And this was a big Indian, you know, and I'm sitting there, and Rudy is sitting right behind me, and he whispers in my ear, never forget it, God is God. The best a guru can do in this world is be the servant of God and the servant of his students. I have never forgotten that. It was one of the greatest teachings he ever gave me. That will activate kundalini. And not only will it activate kundalini, it'll give you the strength to be able to deal with kundalini. Because kundalini is a very powerful energy, and it tips the scales inside. I mean, I always, I said it in that little article I wrote, you know, there are hospitals, psychiatric wards full of people that are suffering from kundalini-itis.
So were you referring just now when you said that activates kundalini, were you saying is that the simply by intending and staying with that intention of being a servant of God?
Not by intending, but by becoming.
By becoming.
Not intention. Intentions get you nowhere.
You know? Intentions get you nowhere?
Get you nowhere. Becoming, because you have developed a chakra system that's strong enough to do it.
And could we consider like our classes here like is as being like in the process of becoming?
That's what I'm doing here, Jenny, really. I have 7 of these classes a week. I have healing sessions with people. I mean, you know what goes on here? Mm-hmm. My life, you know? Healing sessions. I have classes. I have this, in-person classes, because I understand the training that is essential just for people to learn how to be humble. Just for people to learn how to keep their hearts open. Just for people to learn how to build chi inside themselves and have the power to activate kundalini without allowing that energy to go to their heads and turning them into some kind of strange creature, you know, mm-hmm. who's holier than thou, you know. Like.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question? Great question, Jenny. Thank you. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
I do have a question, Stuart. It's Khalid.
Yes, Khalid.
Since I started the meditation, I can feel changes in my heart chakra. I can feel vibrations, and my throat chakra is a bit better. I can feel it getting opened. And also the chakra below the navel, I can feel activity there. But nothing about the sex chakra. It's like I don't feel that it exists.
I wouldn't worry about it, Khalid. You're building a system inside that is getting strong enough to have energy move through the sexual area to the base of the spine. I wouldn't worry about that. I would just continue building. I mean, you look beautiful, dear. You have grown so much in such a short time that for me, it's just a joy to have you in my classes. And all the rest of it is just time and working and growing, and it unfolds, it takes place. So I wouldn't worry about that. Or even, just do your inner work. All of that will take place.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question?
Sure.
Yes.
And you're wonderful yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart?
Yes.
Would you say by working towards mastering the craft that we are basically rewiring our brain?
You're rewiring your whole inner life, not
system.
just your brain. The brain needs to be, look, from the time we're born, what do? We think. We're born these innocent, beautiful little babies, that are just delicious to hold and they're sweet. They're not thinking anything, It's just the energy of God flowing through these delicious little creatures. And as we get older, we are trained to think. We're conditioned to think. And that thought clutters up the brain, and the whole energy of the mind has to be rewired to attain a state of inner peace, inner quiet. And in order to do that, you got to rewire the heart, the throat, the chakra below the navel, the sex, the kundalini, everything, the whole system of the whole house has to be rewired. It's a major renovation job. Fixing people, because they're so conditioned to live the way they live that, and it takes, then you got to have patience. It takes time to do this, to rewire our inner selves. I remember once I was at Rudy's gallery and he came out, I was outside, he came out and he said, I won't mention names, but he told me, I just rewired so-and-so's entire brain. I was afraid that if he continued going the way he's going, he would kill himself. But he told me. And it's not that I'm afraid any of you are going to kill yourselves. I don't see that in people that study here. But in order to get into a state of being inside where we have that inner peace, the meditation process, this craft of meditation, will enable us to rewire ourselves. We suddenly are centered at the core of our being instead of spending all the time in our heads. The heart is open, there's joy, there's love, instead of all of that emotional drama and soap opera that goes on inside. We become human. And in becoming human, we then have the strength inside to support an activated kundalini. The kundalini will activate anyway, but it will only activate according to what somebody is ready to deal with. And the stronger you get this inside, the stronger kundalini will become. But it's rewiring the whole system. And that's what this meditation is about. I'm trying to teach you all how to rewire yourself. So you can just have a deep state of inner peace. You can be with God. You can be a child of God. You can see all of us can see the miracle of God around us every day of our lives. So it's not just rewiring the brain, it's rewiring the whole system.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome. Good question. I love this question period. It brings up so many incredible things that people need and can use in their daily growth. Does anyone else have a question I would like to ask? Ola, you don't have a question? What's going on here?
I have a question.
I do, Stuart.
I'm just kidding.
That's okay. I have a family member who's passed recently, and recently you shared about how you assisted someone getting ready to pass, someone who was ill, I think a former student of yours. And I was curious, can you talk about what that means, preparing someone for their journey?
Well, this happened about a week ago. You know, it really happened. It was 2 Sundays ago. So, you know, and a person I hadn't seen in literally 20, 25 years. And a person who I used to really adore. She was a wonderful human being, alive, full of life, empathy, compassion for other people. And when I walked into the apartment where she was, I mean, she was completely, you know, it's like she was at the last stages of her life. She was gasping for breath. Every breath was a gasp. And I took her hand, I sat down, took her hand, and she was in such a traumatic state, she couldn't even look up at me and see me. And I took her hand, and obviously she knew who it was. And I could feel her internal life getting quieter, softer. And then it was for me to open the channels of transition for her. So she could move into, her soul can move into the unknown, into, you know, to the arms of God, you know, whatever, you know. And I spent 2 hours or an hour and a half doing this work with her. Opening up the bardo, opening up life after death for her soul to move into that. And at the same time, trying to take the fear out of her of making that transition. I even said to her, you're gonna make a transition, you're gonna come back like a beautiful baby, delicious, sweet, innocent, full of love. And you're going to bring everything you've learned about God and spirit with you into your next lifetime. You don't have to hold on. You don't have to hold on. Next day, she left. And now her partner, the woman who's with her, become a very close friend of mine. She started coming back to meditation classes. She's really a wonderful person, you know? And what was a miracle is to see the kind of growth that had taken place in this woman because of what she went through with her partner. It was extraordinary. And I told her that. I said, I've never seen you like this. It's just beautiful to see how much you have grown in your life. So it was an amazing experience. Amazing, you know? And this happened out of nowhere. I got an email from a mutual friend that this woman was dying. And she was in hospice care and this and that. So I got in touch with her partner. I got her email and I emailed her and I said, is it possible that I can come see her? And she said, I was dreaming about you, Stuart, 2 days ago. It's extraordinary. And I went down. I just stopped everything. You know, you can ask Jennifer. I said, Jennifer, let's get the car and go. I got to go see this person. And I can't tell you the growth that took place in me from doing something like that. Something changed in me profoundly. And I've been through this before. I've talked about it, having gone through this. In fact, I've been through that kind of, I don't know how many times in my life. And I was able to bring into that situation everything I had learned about making the transition from this life to the unknown. But that's what I keep telling you, or you grow, and these things just happen. God serves you in the most unbelievable ways. Unbelievable. And I tell you, I said 2023 is going to be a great year. And all I've gotten was people going blind and cancer. And I mean, it's the whole first 2 weeks of the year has been extraordinary in the amount of work I've had to do with people.
But Stuart, you're planting seeds, right?
Hmm?
You're planting seeds because then these beautiful souls are taking what we've learned and we're carrying that, right, into our next transition.
Yes, we keep everything and we bring it into we also keep the bullshit we've done in this life, bring that into our next incarnation, you know? So through doing inner work, we transform the bullshit into an embracing of God. Again, that's what these classes are for, building that kind of system that we can do it.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome. I just have one further thing to talk about, and that I don't know how many of you know Bob Sink and what Bob has contributed to Rudy's work and meditation practice. And, he's going through a really hard time now. He has some incurable problem with his eyes, and he could go blind. It's very possible that he could go blind because of this. And we've set up a GoFundMe thing for Bob to try and help raise money for him so that he can pay for he virtually has no insurance, nothing. And I mean, the man has been amazing. I mean, he's the one who really created the Rudy movie. Many years ago while we were in Texas, I asked him to go to New York and edit all the scraps of film they had and put together the Rudy movie. He's just about every book I've written. He's done the interior, the covers, and it's just one thing after the other, always helping and never asking for anything. Always in the background, wanting to sit and meditate and to contribute in his own way. An amazing guy, But anyway, he's in a very dire situation now. We've set up a GoFundMe thing. I can have Jennifer email you all the link to it. And if you can contribute $5, $10, $1 million, whatever you can contribute, whatever you can find in your heart to contribute, that it would really be deeply, deeply appreciated. So I'll ask Jennifer after class to email you all this thing and try to, you can do it. You don't have to do it through PayPal or Venmo or any of those things. You can do it through a credit card. They take a credit card there. I did it and other people have done it. And, we've raised, some money so far, but we absolutely need some more. So please, everyone, whatever you can find to give, please give something. And you'll get an email probably in the next half hour telling you, how to do this. You just click on the picture of Rudy that's in the email. It'll take you to the GoFundMe page. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? I mean, if you ever read any of my books, I don't know if Bob Sink did the interior of just about every book I've ever written. He also is the person who's managing my website, all these tantric things I've been writing. He's the one who's been posting them. I mean, he really takes care of so many things so quietly that almost nobody knows about him, But he does all this stuff, and it's quite amazing what he does. So please try to contribute something to help him. He needs help right now. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, thank you. God bless you all. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all on Thursday. Have a wonderful day or evening. And again, I tell you all this, I'll say it again, you all are my teacher. And I'm just grateful to be able to sit here, do this open, and allow all of you to teach me what I have to learn to grow in every single one of these classes. So bless you. And hopefully I'll see everyone on Thursday.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.
Stuart.